Hi everybody, Al Bernstein here with another one of my video blogs. One of the things that makes announcing boxing and covering it really unique to me is that you see athletes and that blossom. You see fighters, boxers who get better every time they go out and who you see the promise in, and it's fascinating to watch that promise. Now I remember years ago when Jermaine Taylor was getting ready to fight for the middleweight title, before he fought Bernard Hopkins, and of course he beat Hopkins the first time and then the second time in very close decisions that probably could have gone either way. I remember looking at Jermaine Taylor and saying to myself and publicly, he is going to be one of the great middleweight champions we've seen in a long time. He was an excellent, stylish fighter who could go to the body, was at that time trained by Pat Burns, who I thought was doing a superb job with him, and he looked like he had all the tools you could possibly want. He didn't really, before he fought Bernard Hopkins, he didn't fight that interim fight against a really good fighter before he got his shot at Bernard Hopkins. And strangely enough, by winning those two matches against Hopkins, very close, and they could have gone either way, it ended up really being a detriment to him. Because right after that, he fought a series of left-handers, difficult styles, and never really developed into the fighter he should have been. Certainly, Jermaine Taylor, who's still fighting and is fighting for another world title shortly, had a good career. But he never became that fighter that I thought he was going to be, and some other people did. Now, I go back in time to draw a comparison to a fighter who is here today. A fighter who I'm also extremely impressed with. A fighter who gets better every time he fights, who is dedicated to his craft, and who, in my opinion, is the future of the welterweight division, and that is Keith Thurman. Thurman has had some fights against good fighters. He fought Zavik, one of the top contenders and a champion in that division. He fought Diego Chavez, who it was in a terrific fight, and we now see after he virtually beat Brandon Rios, though he didn't end up with the win in that fight. But we now know Chavez is a very good fighter, and we thought that at the time. He beats Jesus Soto Caras. He's fought some other good fighters. What Keith Thurman has not had yet is a fight against a Sean Porter, a Robert Guerrero, or some of the other top welterweights who we know are B+ to A-level fighters who are excellent. He wants those fights, and not just those two men. I'm not singling them out, but I'm saying somebody like them. Certainly Guerrero has been offered that fight against Thurman, and that has not materialized. Keith Thurman needs, and I think deserves, a fight against a major top welterweight. Because then not only will we get a true reading on how good Keith Thurman is, we're going to find out whether he's ready to take that step to stardom or possibly superstardom. And I think he needs it for himself to be ready to fight that next level. I mentioned Jermaine Taylor didn't have it. Another person who didn't have it was Jerry Cooney. He didn't get it, and he went into his fight with Larry Holmes, and because he had fought aging heavyweights just before that, Ron Lyle, Jimmy Young, Kenny Norton, and used his power to beat them, he didn't have that true tough test against a top heavyweight that would have challenged him. He went in against Larry Holmes and really fought very well in portions of that fight, but he was not ready to fight Larry Holmes. And I think had he had that interim fight, may even have won that fight against Holmes, or certainly would have been even more competitive in the match. So now Keith Thurman, in my opinion, is sitting there in exactly the same situation. I think Keith Thurman is a terrific fighter. He has gotten better in every single fight. He is a completely focused athlete who knows what he wants from the sport of boxing. He's also a fascinating personality in terms of the marketing of the sport, because he is just flamboyant and confident enough to not be arrogant, but show us that he thinks he's going to win every time he steps in the ring. But he also has enough humility, and he's very articulate to, I think, make people see him walk that fine line of appealing to the boxing fans that like a little more bombast and those that would rather see a little more humility in some of the fighters that they root for. So I think he's right in the middle, where from a marketing standpoint, he could be a very popular figure. He's only 25 years old, and I think right now, Keith Thurman, either in his next fight, which will probably be in November, or right after it, he really needs a fight with a top welterweight. And then I would love to see Keith Thurman be the last man that Floyd Mayweather fights on that 6-fight deal with Showtime/CBS. And I think if Thurman could get a fight with a top welterweight and could go into that Mayweather fight with that experience, I think it would be a humdinger and would be really, really fascinating. And I know I've been accused in the past of maybe being a little too enthusiastic about Keith Thurman, but I honestly think he is a terrific fighter and someone who, if he can get these red opportunities, will be the future of the welterweight division and maybe, to some degree, the future of boxing.